Hey guys, Retro Dude here. Thanks for visiting my channel where we check out all things retro. We mainly focus on video games, but once in a while we do go into anime, cartoons, uh, probably even go into retro toys. Today's a surprise actually. We're gonna be taking a look at a game that I didn't plan on showing it to you guys, but it recently got a remastered release on it. So I figured, you know what? Let's play the old, let's play the new, and see how they stack up. So the game I'm talking about is Alex Kidd in Miracle World. It was released in 1986, so it's 30 plus years old. It's a platform game. It was released for the Sega Master System. So the premise of it is basically Janken the Great is wreaking havoc in the land, and it's our hero's job to go in and stop him. Our hero is Alex Kidd, obviously. Alex Kidd was actually an official mascot to Sega back in the Master System days. It got a lot of different games on it. I remember, well, one was Alex Kidd in Miracle World, but it also got Alex Kidd in Shinobi World, Alex Kidd in The Lost Stars, Alex Kidd in High Tech World. It even got a Genesis release too, Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle. So, like I said, I'm gonna be taking a look at the old and the new. So we're gonna take a look at the graphics. We're gonna take a look at the music, see how the old fared against the new, and we're gonna take a look at the gameplay and fun factor of it, see how fun the game is to play. Now, this game is it's actually pretty cool. It hadn't been more than like 2 or 3 weeks when I was actually talking about this game to my kids. I did used to play this game a lot. I remember it fondly. One of the reasons why I remembered it so much was the boss fights. They were so cool. It was gimmicky, but it was cool. Basically, deviated from the norm. Uh, you would your boss fights were played in rock paper scissors style, yeah. So or janken. So yeah, basically the boss fights was best 2 out of 3 who to win. Rock paper scissors would actually win the boss battle. It was so cool. The graphics were a bit quirky on it, if I remember right. So that's another thing that I remember about it. I mean, obviously, you got a game who's playing rock paper scissors. It's not gonna take itself too seriously, right? But it also had vehicles in it, so you would get like a motorcycle, you would get like a helicopter, like a personal helicopter that you would pedal, and it would go up and down, which was pretty cool. It also had some pretty cool power-ups. I remember, well, it had the rice thing where like you would just like the star, like the Mario star. Basically, you were invincible. Had a ring that you would shoot, like you would punch and it would shoot out like a fireball or something. It had a cane, I think, that would help you float. So it had different power-ups, which was pretty cool. I mean, if anything, I think it was just a game created to rival Super Mario Brothers. First, I got to play in the retro game with the Sega Master System game. So let's take a look at the graphics, see what I thought about it. If you guys follow my channel, I'm a retro gamer, so 8-bit graphics actually look nice to me. I am a retro gamer. I do like 8-bit games. I do like playing them. However, this game, it shows its age. If anything, I could probably say it's showing rust, man. Uh, it's it's like I would probably equate it to like a Atari 1.5 in terms of graphics. You know, like the graphics aren't good at all. Now I get that they were going for the quirky graphics, which was pretty decent in that sense, but everything else around it, the backgrounds seem pale, and just the enemies were. I mean, everything just it didn't click as much as I remembered it in terms of graphics. And that's not a knock on the Sega Master System, because I think the Sega Master System had better graphics than the Nintendo did, or at least enough to rival them. You get me? So, I mean, I remember graphics like Fantasy Star had some really nice looking enemy graphics on that, so it was a really nice looking game. And even games in their simplicity like Ease still looked a little bit better than this game did. So It's not a knock on Sega as a whole, because Sega had some nice looking games. It's just this one, it showed its rust. Like it was probably towards the beginning of the generation where they weren't showing off too much of the graphics, and it really looks pretty plain. Now let's take a look at the music. The music, I'm not sure. It seems to me that Sega Master System didn't have the technical chops to stand up to Nintendo in the sense of music. It's my opinion that the sound chip crippled the music on the Sega like severely. Like most of the games just sound dull, uh, to the point where they sound like like an ice cream truck. Just that type of sound. You get me? Now, it didn't help with the way that it was composed because it just seemed like it's repetitive. It seems like it loops every like 10 seconds or something. You don't really get an actual song. It's just different tones, and they loop it, and that's pretty much it for the sound of it. So I didn't notice it when I was growing up. I didn't really think much of it, but now that I'm a bit older, the repetitiveness does actually get pretty annoying on that sense. Now, funny story on that is, back when I was playing it as a kid, I didn't notice it, but my dad did. So this is absolutely true. Let me just get into a little rant here. So one day he's just complaining about it. I mean, I'm playing a Sega Master System. It wasn't this game actually. It was a Doodle Racer. But I was playing it for a while, and my dad complains. He's like, you know what? This thing just sounds horrible. It's like I'm listening to an ice cream truck for 8 hours straight. So that's how he compared it. And then he just blew his lid. Like I can't stand it anymore. So he goes, he gets the game, he pulls it out. I'm still playing the game, so he pulls it out and slams it on the floor. Blast. This is where I could say like they don't build things like they used to, because not only did nothing happen to the cartridge when he slammed it on the floor, it actually fought back, man. That's right. This thing bounced back. Not only did it not get broken or anything, it hit his face. So all I see when it bounced back is like, my dad trying to pull it away from his face. This thing was like knocking him out or something. So after that, he just puts it on the dresser and walks out. So that's right, my dad got beat by a Doodle Racer. But now that I'm pretty much the age he was when he was listening to it, I have to agree with him wholeheartedly on that. It does get repetitive, and it is pretty annoying to listen to the point where I could probably tell you it reduced the fun factor of the game just listening to that music repeat as often as it did. And with that, let's take a look at the fun factor of it. So it is a platformer, so difficulty is expected, and it is a bit difficult. One shot kills actually elevate that difficulty. So what that basically means is anything touches you, that's it. You have no life. So as soon as you get touched by anything, you will lose. But it is manageable. So I really didn't notice the difficulty until like the last stage where it really spiked. It got very difficult to the point where you start getting frustrated because you're dying so much. But being an older game, I mean, playing it through an emulator and having save states really helped that out to not get overly frustrated. The quirky graphics are actually pretty nice on that. So one thing that like really pops out to me is when Alex Kidd throws a punch, and that's his only attack, a punch. The fist is just as big as him. You get me? So that looked pretty cool. And the bosses as well, they look pretty decent. They basically resemble the different stages of rock paper scissors. So one of the bosses is just a fist, one is a hand, one is a scissors. So that was pretty cool on that as well. The stages, they tried doing a little bit different things here and there with the vehicles and stuff. They were a little bit too linear for my taste, a little bit too short actually. I mean, you could if you were good enough, if you knew the stage, you could probably get through it like in 2 minutes or something. It was so short. Well, that's it for the Sega Master System. And now let's take a look at the remake, Alex Kidd America World DX, which is how they decided to name it. This was developed by Merge Games and Jonkin Team. So graphically, obviously, it's a much nicer looking game. One of the things that I really liked about it was the shadow effects or sun effects. So basically, when you're going through the stage and you go through like a shadow, like you definitely see that on the character as he passes by. Another thing that I really like about it is, even though they did beautify it, I would probably say, the core gameplay of it is completely the same. It changed nothing on that. Musically, I could say that they really improved on it, though they didn't have much to work with. Like I said, I mean, they just looped the song way too fast, so they didn't really have much to work with to begin with. One thing that I can tell you though is it wasn't annoying to listen to like it was in the Sega Master System, so kudos on that. Though you probably won't be adding any of this music to your music playlist, but it's a lot more enjoyable than the Sega Master System was. Now, the gameplay or the fun factor of it, like I said, it retains every bit of the original, so it's just as hard. There was this spot where I just got stuck. I died like a million times on this thing, and when I played through it on the Sega Master System, I beat it so easily. I was like, oh, I got so frustrated on that. Those where you cross the spikes. Basically, it's toward the ends. Like I said, like the difficulty definitely took a big spike on that. So when you have to cross the spikes as you're swimming, the control isn't as tight as it is. So like you press it and it goes up and down, but there's a little place where you barely even fit through it. So it was really difficult to get through that area. I died so much. It was so annoying. I think I was stuck there for like 3 days until I figured something out. Like I noticed this, like, hey, why am I only getting hit like from the bottom and not from the top? So it wasn't like an automatic, like, oh wow, this is what's happening. I just noticed it, so I figured, you know what, I'll try it out. And yeah, lo and behold, the spikes don't hit you from the top side up. So basically your head for some reason doesn't get hit by the spike. So as soon as I figured that out, yeah, I got through that little place right there. It's really easy, and I guess that's why I got through it on the Sega Master System so fast, because I just hit the head, not the bottom. And on this one, I was just trying to make it so perfect, and I would just completely get killed, obliterated so many times. Yeah, and like I said, I feel like a total idiot because I was stuck there for like 2 or 3 days. And again, the fun factor of it, the music being better definitely helped the fun factor on that. You don't have to listen to that repetitiveness. So the fun factor is a little bit better on the remake than it is on the retro one. So even though they retained the core gameplay of it, it's not a straight one-to-one copy, because they did add a few extra levels to it or stages. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's not like it's completely changed the game around. I mean, it probably added like 3 or 4 different stages on that, and they were pretty short. So the game itself is actually pretty short. I think it only runs less than an hour if I really think about it. Another thing that I actually noticed, if you guys do decide to play it or decide to play both of them, it did change the patterns of the rock paper scissors bosses. So they had a fixed pattern, which I remember from playing it in the old days, and on the new one, it retains it up to a certain point, and then it just switches it around. And they still do have a pattern, so it's not like, oh my god, like they're random. No, they still do have a pattern. It's just a different pattern that they have. And lastly, the lack of the save states, which I used a lot while playing the emulator, can be both a good and a bad thing. The bad of it obviously is that once you die, you go back to the beginning of the stage and you have to retry to beat it again. So that's the bad. The good is you're actually playing it the way it was intended to be played. So the difficulty is like I was intended, and it just brought me back to that sense. I mean, I didn't get that when I was playing it on the Sega Master System because I had the save states. On this one, I didn't. On the remake, so the lack of the save states, you'll definitely see it on my playthroughs on that. So my goal of checking both of these out was one to see if the retro held up to the remake, and see if the remake actually kept that feeling from the retro game while just updating the visuals and possibly the music on that. And clearly the visuals being upgraded, the music being upgraded, and the core gameplay remaining the same, they definitely did a good job at updating graphically and musically this game. So yeah, the remake is probably a better choice all around, just on that alone. Now, to add to the fact is that with the press of a button, I think the R2, I played on the PS4, the R2, you could change from retro style to updated visuals. So if you're more of a retro fan, and you want to check it out, you don't believe what I'm saying, you could definitely just switch it out like that. So it's like you get two in one in this instance. But if that wasn't enough, you actually, once you beat the game, you actually get a option to play in what they call classic mode or something like that, which is a straight Sega Master System copy of it. So that was actually pretty cool when I beat it and I got to see, it's like, oh wow, look, this is actually the Sega Master System game all like through and through. There's not a like 16 by 9, it's a 4 by 3 little square on it. So it was pretty cool on that. You get a little extra kick in on that. So I did enjoy replaying this game after 30 plus years or something, though it was a bit short for my liking. And honestly, for the price tag of 20 bucks that it's going for right now, I would probably be a little bit more skeptical on recommending it to you guys at that price. Now at a $10 price tag, I definitely have no problem just recommending it so you guys can check it out. At $20, I would probably say you have to be an Alex Kidd fan to properly appreciate it. But even then, that being said, if you're a retro fan and you like these types of games being remade, I would strongly suggest or urge you guys to keep buying these types of games, because one day they'll actually get to one that you actually enjoy, that you actually like. Personally, I'm hopeful that one day we'll get the Guardian Legend remade in updated graphics, because that game was absolutely phenomenal in my opinion, and it's a forgotten game. Even another game from the Sega Master System like Fantasy Star or Golvius. I mean, there's a ton of them. I imagine one of these days we get an updated graphics on Chrono Trigger. So we have to, as a community, keep supporting these types of games. One of these days we'll get the actual games that we want. Here's open, right? I did play and I uploaded both of my playthroughs for these games, so you will get to see the Sega Master System. You will get to see the remake as well if you guys want to. And if you like what I'm doing, you like my content, don't forget to click the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit me with the thumbs up. As always, if you guys have any suggestions, or just leave it in the comment section below. I do check that out. Thanks for joining me again on this trip down memory lane. And as always, stay retro.